Joe, we continue in our deep dives and stay actually in the ACC. We go to North Carolina State, who, Joe, at the end of the year, it's ironic, you and I were talking about because we did game picks, and we picked between NC State and North Carolina that week. And you know what, man? You look up, and here's a fight and battle to see which North Carolina team is going to be 9-3 at the end of the year. You know, it's funny, in the beginning of last year, if me and you would have had a conversation of a team that might be pushing on the 10 wins, me and you probably would have said that it's North Carolina with Drake May. No, it was NC State. So we'll go and talk about the Wolfpack. What do you think about them when you look at them going into the season?
Yeah, another team that I think fits that definition of, and I mentioned Virginia Tech in the Open, kind of reminds me of them in the sense that they bring back a lot of their important players, and they did a pretty good job in the portal of really rounding out their roster. So they added Noah Rogers. Jordan Waters was a really good running back for Duke last year. He was really productive. I think the biggest part of this, it felt like NC State was a team that was a quarterback away from really hitting their stride. And Grayson McCall, has played a million snaps. He's like the Bo Nix light with how much goddamn football that this kid has played at Coastal Carolina. And here he is going on to play at NC State. I think that this offense that was already strong, that was led by Casey Concepcion, there was inconsistency at quarterback, a couple of different guys bouncing in. Put Grayson McCall in. The run game with Waters is going to be great. Concepcion's going to be catching passes from Grayson McCall. Zeke Corral from Notre Dame is going to be blocking up the middle, who was formerly a really highly recruited kid. Dude, this team, man, the real ball knowers know. I'm not coming in here saying that they're better than Clemson before the Clemson fans get mad. But this is a top 5 team in the ACC, bare minimum.
I completely agree. Dude.
Good for once.
Dude. I'm borderline with you. I know you well enough to know you really want to have the bold take and say that they could be a surprise team last year. You know, we always, since TCU happened, right, the last 2 years or last –
I'm not going to go that far. I'm not that coked up, okay?
Really since Cincinnati, what, you know, during summer content has become, who's the next Cincinnati? Who's the next TCU? I'm not saying a 9-3 team last year, okay, it's just going to come out of nowhere. I don't think you could say that about NC State. I don't know.
Next Louisville, I think that's the better comp.
Okay, that is fair. They might be Louisville and fight for the ACC. Who knows what happens there? I agree with you on one big point. When you talk about Grayson McCall coming in, look, a guy that I think a lot of people were always interested to see if he got to a better situation, what he would look like. Now he's there. Jordan Waters' pickup, though, brother, might be one of the best pickups that no one talks about. So you have Concepcion, you have Noah Rogers that you also added. The question that I have, though, Joe, is them defensively. I don't know. Like, what are you doing at your other linebacker spot? I know you brought in Wyatt Wright. I know that you brought in some other guys like Corey Cooley, okay? But, Joe, you brought in, I think, 6 guys that you think that might start from the portal defensively or potentially could. My question becomes, are they going to be a little disoriented with that many portal pieces that they're expecting to start?
I'm not really totally worried about their defense because I thought that their defense was pretty strong and consistent and well coached last year. It's not a team that has like tremendous premier talent. There was a time where they were putting out a lot of really good defensive linemen.
Yeah, they always had that one edge rusher that'd be borderline top 5 pick, like Mario Williams and
wait, you're thinking North Carolina.
No, Mario Williams was at NC State.
What? No, he wasn't.
You want to place a small little wager?
Am I thinking of somebody? No, he was at
NC State.
It was at NC State. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Why did I think he was at?
You're probably thinking of Julius Peppers.
I'm thinking of Julius Peppers. That's why.
Okay.
Well, he was a first overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, which again, North Carolina always has those freak basketball-like dudes coming out of nowhere and being really good defensive ends. I always like a DN that wears number 1, 2. And when you look at NC State, Davin Vaughn, okay, wears number 1. I love it. I
stock up because of that.
I love a fat dude that wears a single digit. I love
way
it.
too easy.
And you know what else? They got another dude in their front 7 and Sean Brown that wears number 0.
Best defense in college football.
Best defense in college football. Best defense.
And on a more serious note, I think here's the biggest part of all this. They have, and we talked about Syracuse having a favorable schedule. NC State might have the easiest schedule out of any of these ACC teams. The only games that like really caught my attention, they avoid Florida State. They avoid having to play Notre Dame. They avoid having to play Miami. They play Tennessee at home. They go to Clemson, and they go to North Carolina. If you lose all 3 of those games, you're still 9-3. The rest of their schedule is very favorable to them. Read it.
I mean, look, West Carolina, you have in there, like you mentioned, Tennessee, Louisiana Tech at Clemson. You know, that look, we just got done talking about them. That could be tough. But after that, Joe, I mean, Northern Illinois, Wake Forest, what is Syracuse? You know what I mean? Like, what is Syracuse at that point with a new coaching staff? Here's one that I did circle. Cal.
They got Jay Knott. Who else do they have? I'm not worried about Cal.
I don't like 18 to 21-year-old kids flying that far across country. I don't think they're going to do well with it. I really don't.
You're overthinking that.
Okay.
Overthinking that.
Regardless, Duke at Georgia Tech at North Carolina. Joe, you could look up and them be 10-2, and it would be the least shocking thing to me of all time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, this is where, and another thing that gets often misunderstood, I think, when we do these, a projection for one team is different than a projection for the other because
they're not created equally.
It's not just describing and painting this picture of what their roster is. It's also understanding who they're facing. They're playing the middle to the back end.
One? You don't like that Syracuse? You don't think Syracuse could be a little team that could test them?
I think they test them. I don't think they're beating them. I think that Syracuse is going to be your way from like beating.
Well, then who are the 3 teams that beat them?
That's where I'm coming at. Like three. They would have to lose to Tennessee, Clemson, and North Carolina, all 3 of them, and play poorly in all 3 of those games. You would have to, like, that's what's crazy here. There's really only 3 losable games, and more often than not, when you've got a good, well-coached football team with a veteran core, they're not going to lose all 3 of them.
I'm sure NC State fans would tell you that there's always probably that one game that they're supposed to win and don't, but I don't know. I mean, there's nobody else besides Tennessee that I'm just like gung-ho. And, I mean, even Clemson, Joe.
Yeah, Clemson could be a close game. They could find a way to win that football game.
And
the only one is maybe right. If they do, then we're having a really, really
interesting conversation. So that goes to my point that I started off this segment with. When I look at you and say, "Hey, is this team do they have a perfect setup to be the next TCU?"
Yeah, they kind of do.
Momentum could be a scary ass thing, brother. This team thinks that they're better than they are. They don't have a tough schedule. They get tested a little, but not much. They play Tennessee early in the year, which is going to be a barometer for this team. I don't know.
Here's the only thing, though, that I think the question does need to be brought up. Say they go on this immaculate run. They benefit from the easy schedule. They go on. I think it'd be likely that they lose the ACC Championship game.
Oh yeah, I don't think that they're going to win the conference. But,
yeah, I don't think they're good enough to win.
You know
the
what?
ACC.
You know what? Neither did TCU.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.